I mentioned Diary of a Teenage Girl. There you were playing 15-year-old, and
Oh,
I saw
God.
that movie, man, and I'm going like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot. And that was my first ever film.
Yes, right?
It was a
I
lot
know.
for a young 21-year-old girl to
And you
take
popped
on.
right away, winning the Gotham Award,
Yeah.
the Trophée Chopard in Cannes, and all kinds of things. But that was a controversial movie. I mean, that was a movie
Yeah,
that people...
I don't know if it was controversial. It was just, it was different. And
Right.
it was like new for its time. I think it was the first time that there'd been a film that about kind of a girl having kind of sexual feelings, but all told from her point of view in a very honest way. And that's what attracted me so much to it, because I'd never seen kind of that on screen before.
Hurry, faster. What should I drop it? On the ground? Drop it, yes, let's go. Margot.
Attention. Have your papers ready.
Oh my God, we're too late. The checkpoint is open.
Attention. Please have your identification ready.
I don't have my ID. I know, because you told me not to bring it. And you told me to take off my coat. And if they see I'm not wearing my star, they're going to arrest me.
Margaret, stop it and listen to me, okay? No. Don't cry. Don't cry. Don't cry. Okay?
You apologize and say you forgot your ID. What if they stop me?
They won't, if you smile. You can't show any fear. He's looking at us. Laugh. Like I'm telling you a joke. Yeah. Okay?
Almost there. Almost there.
I can't do this.
Margot, forgot my ID 2 days ago. They let
No,
me
I'm
right
going
through.
back.
No. He's already seen us. All right, listen to me.
I really don't think I can do this.
Margot, you can do this. You are so much stronger than you think you are.
Let me see.
Welcome to the Actors Side. Today, this is a very important show we're going to be talking about, and a very exciting career of an actor here who has been in many things so far, broken through with Diary of a Teenager, a Girl, and so many others after that. That is where I first saw you, in Diary of a Teenage Girl.
It's a long time ago now.
Exactly, now, right? Now you're
And I
a
look
veteran.
the same.
But amazing. Welcome, Belle Powley.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
And the project that I'm talking about, that we're talking about right now, is called A Small Light. And it is a limited series of 8 episodes on Disney Plus, Nat Geo, and Hulu. Is there a cable network or streamer you're not going to be on with this show? Amazing. And here's why I think that's important. This story needs to be told. It is a story, everyone knows the story of Anne Frank. They probably read the book. They've seen the many movies that have been made. Recently, I saw there was an animated Anne Frank movie. But I never really saw the story of Miep Keys. I do remember her from the Academy Awards, I think in 1996. Anne Frank Remembered, the documentary, won the Oscar, and she walked up on stage and the place went crazy. It was an amazing moment in Oscar history to see her there. And of course, that's who you play, Miep Keys, who in her early 20s was the person who agreed to hide the Frank family and Anne Frank there. for 2 years. And it's an amazing story of someone taking on something, an ordinary person taking on something that turned out to be extraordinary. Just let's talk about that. How did this project come to you in the first place?
So Susanna Fogel, who EP'd it and directed the first 3 episodes, we'd met a few years prior about another project, and I think she'd kept me in mind, and then I actually got the offer for this project on Holocaust Memorial Day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was really special. I'm Jewish myself, so I have personal connections to this part of history, but I feel like this is a part of history that's been covered a lot in film and TV. So when the offer came through, I thought, I really hope that this is going to be kind of original retelling of this part of history. And I was so blown away when I read the pilot, because obviously I didn't really know anything about Meep's story, really. I mean,
Right.
I've read Anne Frank's diary when I was like a kid, like in school, like people have.
Sure, yeah.
And I know about kind of the overarching part of history, but I didn't know specifically about Meep. But also I was just blown away by how modern it felt and how accessible and relatable. Of course, like, it's set in the 40s and we're wearing 40s clothes, and the production design is like of the time, but it really, the sense of the story, and I think Meep just feels like a very modern character, and that's how she was. She was a kind of modern woman. She was very before her time.
This show really shows her personal life in a big way too. Of course, her fiance and marriage, and what she was going through, and all the difficulties there, living a life, coming of age. I mean, this was her early 20s. She was working for Otto Frank as a secretary.
100%. It has some really relatable themes in it, rather than just feeling like you're being bashed over the head by a bunch of historical facts. I think our showrunners really wanted to show the humanity in the situation to make people connect. So it's themes of marriage, like, Meep's marriage with her husband wasn't going to wait until the war was over.
Right.
Anne's coming of age, living in the annex, wasn't going to wait until the war was over. Edith and Otto were still dealing with having to be parents to teenage girls. It's about as much about those themes as it is about the kind of overarching historical and political themes.
Exactly, as we see her life unfold. Of course, in the very first episode, it's really suspenseful too. We think we know this story, but there is an extraordinary scene that basically starts this series out with you and Margot, going through Nazi lines, and it's beautifully shot. Really, you're on the edge of your seat watching this and how they're going to deal.
I actually went, before we started filming the show, I'd never actually been to Amsterdam, and I'd never been to the Anne Frank house, so I went and took a trip there, and I had like a private tour of the house, and our showrunners gave me a map of a lot of like Meep's bike rides, and one of them was that cycle ride that she took from the Frank's apartment to through the checkpoint and to the annex, and I did that before.
And not giving anything away, but she's brilliant in how she gets through there too. She just goes, "Oh, sorry, I'm late."
Yeah. I mean, that was just like kind of how she was. Like, she was had such an unwavering sense of what was right and what was wrong.
Right.
She just got on with it. Like, I read her book a few times. It's called Anne Frank Remembered, and it's kind of her telling of the story. She wrote it later in her life, and she really has this sense of like, I just did it. Like, I just got on with it. Like, I never questioned it. And you see that in the show in the first episode when Otto says to her, "Listen, I have to ask you something really, really intense. Like, you could get killed if you say yes to doing this, but will you hide us?" And she goes, "Yeah, what do I need to do?" She didn't even question it, and that she just had this like really strong sense of what was right and wrong.
The amazing thing too is you reference the book, which is so many people read over the decades and decades, reading the diary of Anne Frank, but Meep was responsible for actually saving that. She kept that, but didn't read it herself.
No, she didn't, because her and Anne were really, really, really close. She saw Anne like a little sister, I guess, in some ways, also like a friend. Meep says in her own book that she was in awe of Anne, about how kind of precocious and confident, and how Anne was like such a magical person and such a brilliant writer. After the annex was raided and the family were taken away, the first thing that Miep thought was, oh God, I've got to go in and get the valuables, because the Nazis would just go in and just take everything and send it all back to Germany. Sure. And so they went in, and the first thing she saw was they'd opened Otto's briefcase, and because Anne was writing her diary like on loose pages, as well as that diary that everyone knows about, the like checkered diary, and all the loose pages were on the floor, and she collected them all up and the diary, and she put them in her desk and she locked it, and she said, I'm saving this for when Anne gets back, because she knew how personal it was to Anne. And when sadly obviously they found out that the girls weren't coming back, she took it straight out the drawer, she went over to Otto and she handed it to him, and she said, this is your daughter's legacy. And she then, after it was published, dedicated the rest of her life to spreading word about it.
It's amazing too, because she didn't read it at first, and perhaps if she had read it, because she was sort of outed in that, and what she had done, that could have put her life in danger, I think.
I guess
in the wrong hands. So that it worked out that way is a gift.
I mean, even that she wasn't taken away by the Nazi officer who arrested them is an insane part of the story that people won't know about. I mean, he just noticed, she was from Vienna and he was Viennese as well, and she noticed his German accent was like a Viennese accent. And she said, oh, are you from Vienna? And he basically just was like, okay, everyone gets arrested, but you can stay because we're from the same place. Like, the whole thing is bonkers.
It's amazing. Speaking of accents, how did you decide to use basically an English accent?
Well, I think a Dutch accent is basically probably nearly impossible for anyone to do unless you're Dutch. So I was so pleased to hear that Tony and Joan, our showrunners, weren't going to make all of the Dutch characters do Dutch accents, because I think myself and Liev Schreiber would have just been like, yeah, we're out. We can't, I can't do that. It's going to be a terrible show if you try and make me do a Dutch accent. So yeah, for simplicity, everyone in the show who is Dutch speaks English with an English accent, and then anyone who speaks Dutch with a foreign accent speaks English with a foreign accent, which I think hopefully translates okay.
And it totally works.
Yeah.
You know, it totally works. I think you're right. It could have been very distracting with the whole mix there.
I don't think that would have worked.
You mentioned you were at the house. I've been to the house in Amsterdam. It's extraordinary.
It's
been
amazing.
through it. I mean, obviously, it's a legacy that lives on there, but you actually got to shoot in front of it, right?
Yeah, we actually shot in front of the Franks' original apartment, Plane, which was where they lived before they went into hiding. But our set, we shot in Prague on sound stages, and our production designer, I'm so astounded by what he achieved. He literally rebuilt the Anne Frank house on these sound stages. It was a 3-story set that was pretty much, I think it was about 10 centimeters bigger to allow for the cameras, but it was a direct replica of the house. It was so mind-blowing being in there. So we could literally shoot a shot from walking into the office, up the stairs, into Miep's office, Otto's office, back to the bookcase, and then up into the annex, all in one shot. Wow. It was totally incredible. It was amazing.
That has to be, as an actor, just an extraordinary kind of experience.
It was completely extraordinary. It makes it also your job like that little bit easier when you really do feel like you are in a place, especially as we weren't filming in Amsterdam the whole time. But we did get to go and film a few exteriors in Amsterdam. We had 3 weeks there in the middle of the shoot, which was also invaluable, I think, to everyone. What
for you was the biggest revelation, maybe, that you learned in all your research that you clearly did on Miep's life? And you know, she lived to be 101,
yeah.
Which, you know, I mean, when you think of what happened to Anne Frank and everything, life cut so short, here is this person involved with that who had a very long life, well lived.
I mean, listen, I'm completely in awe and find this woman so inspiring. But also, I think making the show, watching it back, doing the research, what struck me is just how relatable it is to now. Like, yes, we're telling a story about this historical figure who no one knows about, and that's incredibly important. But also, it's relatable. Like, we're living through a refugee crisis now. The Franks were refugees from Germany to Amsterdam. There are more displaced people now in the world than there ever have been before. If anything, it couldn't be a better time to tell the story of someone who stood up against bigotry, hatred, like discrimination. This was a non-Jew who put her neck on the line to look after and keep her friends safe. She didn't care what they were. She just loved them. And I think we can all take something from that in the time we're living in.
To me, the minute this was pitched to me, this project, you know, and they said, we would like you to take a look at this, and, you know, A Small Light, very good title and things, I'm thinking, oh my God, now is the time. I mean, with the rise in anti-Semitism and these pro-Nazis, and I'm thinking, does anybody learn from history? Because here, it's happening again.
Exactly, it totally is. And it was crazy. I mean, like, a lot of that Kanye West stuff was all happening while we were shooting the end of the show, and it was really kind of mad that I'd been living in this show when obviously I'd been shooting a show that was set during the reign of the Nazis, and obviously in the script there was like all of this kind of like, I was hearing all of these like Nazi quotes and stuff, and all of these quotes by Hitler, and then it was kind of, I was reading it on Twitter happening in real time. It was pretty mental.
And you're Jewish yourself, so there has to be, coming from you, doing a project like this, a sense of...
Totally, it definitely makes it all, you know, that bit more important to me, but it would be important to me anyway, because as I said, you know, yes, it's the subject of anti-Semitism and it is on the rise, but also just discrimination in general against to anyone is wrong.
Yeah. You've done a lot of movies, obviously, but television has been very good to you. These limited series, everything you know, the one I mentioned.
Everything I Know About Love.
Yes, About Love, which was just last year.
Yeah, it was so
great.
fun.
I'm hoping you get another season somehow.
Yeah, we'll see. I hope you do too.
Maybe the response to that, I think, was really good.
Yeah,
to that
I mean,
show.
so it's weird, like now my brain like changing gears to think about that because it's such a different show.
Well, Birdie, a great character. You know, she's BFF there, and, you know, and you know, there's places to go with Birdie. You know, I'd love to see your mindset of when you get a script, why you decide to do something.
I don't know. People always ask, I'm like, I don't know. It's a gut. You just learn to trust your gut feeling, and when you get that feeling, like
So
right.
what was your feeling when you got the opportunity to do King of Staten Island with Pete Davidson?
Well, that was just because I'm a huge Judd Apatow fan, and I love comedy. Like, I love doing both. Like, I like doing serious drama and I like doing comedy, and I couldn't do one without the other. I'd get bored. I was a friend of Pete, and I heard he was doing this film with Judd, and I said, well, can I be in it? I'll play anything. Basically, that's basically what happened. I basically just crowbarred my way into the film.
Okay, so you wind up as his girlfriend.
Yeah, it was so much fun. It was so great, yeah.
Now, being the morning show freak fan that I am, Claire Conway.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, you
do you miss her?
You got to tell me. I do. You know, the morning show is great. It's coming back too. I guess you're not in it, but
no,
I know.
I'm not. But I had so much fun. I did. I loved playing Claire.
It was a great character. It was a great character.
Yeah, it really was.
All of them. Reese and Jennifer Aniston, not only starring in that, but
They're
basically
incredible.
producing it
Yeah,
too.
and they really were like, or they really do. They are like completely hands-on producers while starring in it and having basically every line of the show. So I think they're pretty, very impressive women.
Yeah, I think a lot of your television projects are very kind of high profile. They get a lot of viewers.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I say choosing those things. You
hopefully A Small Light gets a lot of views too.
Did you always want to be an actor? Your father was an actor. Your mother was a casting director. This is like...
No, I know. People always think, oh, that means that you were like born into showbiz.
No. Jamie Lee Curtis, who was here, said, Nepo baby.
Oh my God, I'm a Nepo baby.
Nepo baby.
I never thought of that. No, my dad was like a soap star, and my mum, she cast this like long-running TV show called The Bill that we had in England, which is like our cop drama.
Right.
But I don't know. It was very unglamorized for me when I was younger. Like, my dad was always away, and sometimes I would like sit in on my mum's castings. Like, I'd go into town with her when she had no childcare, and I'd like sit in the corner and like play with my crayons while she was like casting commercials or whatever. But yeah, it wasn't because of them that I was like, I want to be an actor. It actually kind of just happened. I started in like a kids TV show when I was like 13 about child spies, which was kind of fun, but I did get bullied a lot for it. Like in the show, we'd like talk to each other with pencils.
Right.
Like that was like, it was like we'd like talk with pencils, and at school everyone would always just like be like, "Hey Belle," like with their pencil. Yeah. Anyway, so that kind of happened, and then I did, basically, it was when I started doing theatre in London when I was like 18, around 17 or 18, that I was like, oh wait, actually this acting thing is kind of great. You know, actually being in a rehearsal room with some really incredible directors and working on great material. I was lucky enough to do a Tom Stoppard play on Broadway when I was like 18, and it was a working. Billy Crudup was in it actually, who was also in Morning Show.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah. We worked together twice. Yeah. So it was working on stuff like that. That I was like, oh, actually, this acting thing's kind of.
It's cool. And you did Lobby Hero with Chris Evans on Broadway.
That was so much fun.
And
that's the last play I did. Yeah.
Do you want to go back to
gagging
theater?
for it? It's always after, because I did like 4 years of solid theatre before I did Diary, which was my first film. So that's kind of what I'm most used to. That's why I like love rehearsing, even on movies. Like I love like a long rehearsal process because I'm used to it from theatre. I'm used to like sitting around a table and just like discussing the text for a really long time before you get up and do anything. Yeah. But yeah, it's always after a couple of years of not doing a play, I'm like, okay, I've got itchy feet now, I'm ready to do one. And I haven't, Lobby Hero was the last one, it was a few years ago.
Yeah, well that was pre-pandemic, and
great.
now Broadway at least has come back, and you know, and I think in London it's like bustling now too, right?
There's some really great plays.
I don't think you can be a British actress and not stay away from the stage for
Yeah. We're very serious people.
Right. They invented theater. I mean, you have to keep doing it. Well, this is a must-see. I got to say, this is a must-see. A Small Light, as I said, it's on everything, so you can't avoid it. Disney Plus, Hulu, Nat Geo. Best of luck with it, and thanks for joining us on The Actors.
Thank you so much. Thank you.